what do you expect from Romo this season?
I expect Tony Romo to go out there and have another great season, statistically, but to improve on that, you got to go into the playoffs and you got to win a game in the playoffs this year with this team. As we heard Jerry Jones say that the window was closing. I was in Oxnard last week at Dallas Cowboys training camp.
Wow.
Saw Tony Romo, talk to him, Jason Witten. And the question marks about this team is the offensive line. They walked into the game against the Raiders thinking about how are we going to solve these issues. They didn't walk out of that game with much more confidence because
they were down 2. They had 2 injured.
Exactly, and they have a lot of moving parts. Phil Costa is a center playing a position he's never played before. You talk about Doug Free switching sides and Tyron Smith going to a side he's never played before. All of those variables and the injuries. This team is banged up from their training camp experience. All of that said, I still believe in Tony Romo being an elite quarterback. I believe in his maturity. I have a unique perspective of being a Dallas Cowboy and watching Tony Romo the year I was there as the 4th-string quarterback, about to get cut, basically. Injuries and opportunities, he seized the moment. He became the face of the franchise a few years later. But do you talk about that process of maturing as a leader when you're the one guy that used to go get us the donuts in the locker room, and the next thing you know, you're the man? I think that's why it's taken him some time to mature, because all of those variables, it's difficult for one day a guy to be telling you what to do, and then you flip it around the next day, you're telling him what to do. So Tony Romo has evolved as a leader. He's already been great as a quarterback, but now he needs to take the next step, the same step that Peyton Manning had to take before his first 8 years, before he got his championship. You got to go in the playoffs, and you got to make some hay.
I have my confidence every year gets less and less for Tony Romo. This is, to me, the beginning of the end in Dallas, because at some point you got to get there and you got to make some headway in the playoffs. All those statistics, all those numbers all sound good. That's not what the Cowboys are about. They're about winning championships, and that's the kind of franchise they are. Tony Romo was in the playoffs last year, and you know what happened? They lost. Because that game, the last game of the season against the Giants, was a playoff game, Skip. Was it or was it not?
Yeah.
Because the team that lost, the team that won, got to go to the playoffs. So he had a chance.
They got to go to Green Bay.
It's that close, though, Rob. You're right.
Yeah. Right? That was a playoff game. And you know what?
I'm with you.
Tony Romo wasn't there. Didn't show up. It didn't happen.
The San Diego Chargers were in the same boat. A lot of teams were 7-7 with the Giants.
With a chance.
And they took advantage, and they got on the roll.
And that's what I'm saying. And this is the thing that bothers me the most. I know all the numbers. I've seen them. Everybody, statistically, yes, that's all good. Pro football has a short menu. Wins and losses. There's nothing else.
No, there's other things.
No, that's
menu.
all on the menu.
Oh, yeah, there are. Oh, so Dan Marino.
Wins
Where does he fit on your menu?
Okay, when you talk about...
Barry Sanders, he's not on your menu?
He won games.
But no, Tony Romo has won games.
No, but I'm talking about when you come down to it.
Bruce Smith.
The final 3, well, he lost 4 Super Bowls. The final 3.
Look at this menu.
The final 3 games of the year, which a lot of times is the most important time of the year. Like
anything after Thanksgiving.
Right. Tebow went 0-3 last year in the last 3 regular season games.
Oh, regular season. No.
Tony Romo in the last 5 years, 7-8. And if you take out 09 when he was 3-0.
Oh, of course you want to take out the one that doesn't help your argument.
Well, because the other
Come on, man. Do this the right way.
Because the other 4 years, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. And this is what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to give Tony Romo the credit for when they're winning those meaningless games in September and October, when it comes down to
baseball.
it, I know. But when it comes down to it, you got to win those games late in the season. He hasn't been able to.
Rob, what does your eye test tell you? Can Tony Romo play quarterback in the NFL?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's my eye test.
Okay.
Big time.
The stats told me last year he had a top 5 QBR, which is the new hallowed stat to rank quarterbacks.
That's
top
nice.
5.
That's nice.
And he did that in spite of a sorry give-up defense that they had last year because the secondary was so bad, and a sorry offensive line that barely, if that, protected Tony Romo. He ran for his life much of the year last year. And Rob, fourth quarter after fourth quarter, he pulled off some comebacks. Now, against your Detroit Lions.
I'm glad you brought it up because that was a game changer that probably cost them a chance at the playoffs.
I would agree.
Right? They were up 27-3 at home, and the Lions come storming back because Tony Romo threw 2 or was it 3?
3.
Pick sixes.
He threw a cookie to his best buddy, Bobby Carpenter.
You keep saying that.
I watched it.
Hey,
I
Bobby.
saw it.
Hey, Bobby.
Bobby, here. Little gift for you, Bobby.
Tony Romo was running for his life last year, 36 sacks against Tony Romo. But look at this guy, as you said, top 5 QBR last year. How about this one? Second all-time quarterback rating behind Aaron Rodgers. All-time. I'm talking about a list where Steve Young is third.
And what's the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Tony Romo?
They have that hardware. But what was the difference between Peyton Manning the year before he won his championship and not? He's not clutch. Can he go in the playoff and play great in those crucial situations?
If he didn't win that one Super Bowl, people would still be saying that. You say it all the time, the best regular season quarterback.
And that's where Romo is. He's like Peyton Manning, LeBron James, all of these great players who need something to validate their
And you know what?
greatness.
I agree.
Tony Romo.